Hello everyone, I'm Ankit and you're watching StudyIQ IAS English. In our today's video, we are going to discuss about Siliguri Corridor, which has always been referred to as chicken's neck. So is Siliguri Corridor India's weakness or India's strength? That we'll find out in our today's video, okay? And the notes that I will be using in our today's session, in case if you want to download them, you can go to this particular Telegram channel, ATS Live. Now, while you're downloading the notes in this channel, please do not forget to subscribe to the channel also. Okay, so let us start by understanding why have we picked up the Siliguri corridor for our today's discussion. Now, if you can remember, India recently established 3 new fully operational military garrisons in Dubri Nasam, in Kishanganj and in Chopra. Now, the intention of this garrison, which the military of India, Indian Army in particular has established, is to fortify India's Bangladesh border. And not just India's Bangladesh border, but a very particular geography of India-Bangladesh border that is called as Siliguri Corridor. Now, another name which the Siliguri Corridor has been referred to is called as chicken's neck. Now, this move done by Indian military is very essential. First of all, you need to understand there is a geopolitical flux going on in the country of Bangladesh. Earlier, there was the regime of Sheikh Hasina, which was very amenable to India's interest. But now, more radical kind of a politicians have tried to gain power in the country of Bangladesh, including the present interim government headed by Mohammad Yunus. So when the geopolitical orientation of Bangladesh is changing, tilting more towards China and Pakistan, therefore India's defenses, particularly of that of Siliguri Corridor, becomes very important. So in this discussion, we'll first find out where is Siliguri Corridor located, what were the historical perspectives, whether this Siliguri Corridor was India's weakness and why was it perceived as India's weakness, that we'll find out. And then we'll discuss what are the measures India has taken to convert this weakness into a position of strength. Okay. Now let us start our today's discussion. But before that, I need to tell you why this topic is very important. Now, if you can recall, in 2023, there was a question on home guards. And this question literally caught many people off guard. Why they weren't prepared to answer such kind of a question. Now, in our today's discussion, we'll find out about a specialized unit of Indian Army called as Bhairav Battalions. Now, why have been Bhairav Battalions set up? What is the logic behind it? What they actually do? That we'll find out in our today's discussion. And you can understand similar topics which are in news can also be asked in the next year's exam, right? That is in 2026. So that is why this topic becomes very important. So let us start by understanding the geographical and strategic significance of Siliguri Corridor. Now, the geography of Siliguri Corridor is very crucial because it is only a 22-kilometer wide geography of India and it acts as a bottleneck because on one hand it connects part of India, that is North Bengal, with that of entire Northeast India. So Siliguri Corridor is the only geography through which you can navigate if you have to enter from rest of India and enter into Northeast, that is Seven Sister States. Now, let me tell you something in perspective. Now, as you can understand, 22 kilometers geographically is a very wide region. But understand 22 kilometers in the perspective of India's entire land and breadth. So it appears to be a very small corridor. That is why this corridor, it is called as Siliguri Corridor, which is just a 22-kilometer wide corridor. Now, you need to understand why is this corridor so significant, because in this corridor, there are multiple neighboring countries. On its west, it's Nepal. On its southeast, it's Bangladesh. Very near to us, it's Bhutan. And also there is a part of China. This is called as Chumbi Valley. And in Chumbi Valley was in news few years back because nearby Chumbi Valley in this region, there is Doklam Plateau. And you can understand Indian Armed Forces intervened in Doklam Plateau, which is a territory in Bhutan, when China tried to capture it illegally. So all of this is very near to the geography of Siliguri Corridor, and this is what makes Siliguri Corridor so significant for India's defenses. It makes it very significant for India's connectivity with the entire northeastern part of our country, right? So that is the geographical and strategic significance of Siliguri Corridor. Please remember, the most dangerous thing here is its vicinity to the Chumbi Valley, which is in China, and Chumbi Valley is very close to Doklam Plateau, which is a disputed territory between China and Bhutan. And Doklam territory was the kind of friction that India faced with China much before the Galwan incident. Okay. Now let us come back to our today's discussion. Let us focus on other aspects why Siliguri Corridor is so geographically and strategically significant. Now Siliguri Corridor, as you can understand, it connects rest of India with that of Northeast. So it acts as a key transport artery when you have to supplies any good and services in the northeastern part of the country. So a significant highway, NH10, railway links to the northeast, which is going to be quite significant in coming future. Oil and power transmission lines all flow through this 22-kilometer wide geography of Siliguri Corridor. Therefore, security of Siliguri Corridor, it directly affects India's territorial integrity. It directly impacts India's logistical access to northeast, and it also allows strategic mobility for Indian armed forces whenever they have to deploy heavily in northeast part of the country, so as to deal with challenges that might appear from the border regions, be it Myanmar, be it Bangladesh, or be it China in the northeast, right? So that is why it is very significant. Now let us understand what has been the historical perspective with respect to Siliguri Corridor. I told you Siliguri Corridor, in larger scheme of things, that 22 kilometer is a very narrow corridor. So therefore, when this narrow corridor, which lies nearby bordering areas, be it Nepal, be it Bangladesh, or be it vicinity to China and Bhutan, it was termed as India's Achilles heels, which was seen as militarily vulnerable. And this was due to the fact of its narrowness, high population density. The Duar regions of West Bengal, which is located in the Siliguri corridor, including the districts of Darjeeling, they have a very high population density. And it is also very in close proximity to multiple borders, be it borders of Bhutan and China, be it borders of Nepal, or be it borders of Bangladesh. So because of these factors, because of its geographical narrowness, it was considered as India's Achilles heels, India's weak point. And many enemies of India, be it China and be it Pakistan, have tried to exploit this weakness before also. It happened during 1962 war, where they tried to attack positions in the Siliguri corridor in Indo-Pakistan conflicts, be it 1965, be it the Bangladesh Liberation War in 1971. This was seen as an India's choke point, right? So therefore, enemies tried to isolate northeastern part of the country by blocking India's access through capturing militarily the Siliguri corridor. And also recently, China has built up severe infrastructure, be it Chumbi Valley. One of the reasons why India became or came in conflict with China in Doklam region was one of the attempts of China to increase its deployment in the region. And now these days, because of the new government in power, which is in Bangladesh, Bangladesh is growing very huge linkages with China. So this brings the historical perspective in mind, where people think Siliguri Corridor was India's weakness, right? So this has been why people called it India's weakness. But is it true in 2025? The answer is no. Why isn't it true in 2025? Let me explain it to you. Now you have to understand India's military doctrine, which has been highlighted multiple times by our National Security Advisor, Mr. Ajit Doval. India tries to follow the military doctrine of defensive offense. Now, this military doctrine does not view any security threat as a vulnerability. It sees security threat as an opportunity to double down your own employment, so that by defending your territory, you become so strengthened that then you can dominate your enemies. So this is now not a weakness. This is an opportunity for Indian armed forces, opportunity for Indian government to make this weakness to a position of strength. So what India has done, it has created a multi-layered defense integration, right from deployment of Indian armed forces to deployment of Indian Air Force. All of this has been done in order to fortify the strategic zone of Siliguri Corridor. Similarly, Indian Army has deployed many of its troops in near vicinity, where I won't tell you because this is a crucial aspect. But you need to understand they have been deployed heavily in states of West Bengal, in the state of Sikkim, in the entire northeast region, so that in future, if there is a security need, you can rapidly mobilize your troop, and it would give you an operational control of any situation which may emerge in the future, right? So all of what I've told you in this video comes from the sources that are available freely on the internet. So don't think I'm providing you something very sensitive, right? This is not my intention. Now, let me tell you what are the reinforcements that India has done in recent times, right? Now, whenever these kind of information appear in Indian media, you need to understand government is not trying to hide it. Rather, what government wants to show its strength to its enemies, because if we are reading this article, we must be sure that our enemies are also reading it. And you need to understand these kind of deployment. When India makes about any geography, India is serious about its defense obligations, right? So you need to understand this has appeared in media because government wants it to appear in media. Government wants to show to the enemies that if you want to attack us, attack us. This is what will hit you with it, right? So let us understand what are the kind of security architecture has India designed in Siliguri Corridor to make it reinforced, to make it safe. First is deployment of army. Now the army's unit 33 Corps is responsible for safety of Siliguri Corridor. This is also called as Tri-Shakti Corps. Now it is headquartered in Sukhna in West Bengal, and it is responsible for commanding the defense of the entire Siliguri Corridor. Now this unit of army, Tri-Shakti Corps, frequently conducts joint combat and live fire exercises in close cooperations with other organizations of Indian Armed Forces, be it the Indian Navy or be it in the Indian Air Force. One of the recent instances was exercise Prachand Prahar, which was taken in the northeastern region. So these are the instances how military tries to integrate its strength using infantry, using military guns like T-90 tanks, and integrating with the capabilities of armed forces. Similarly, recently, Indian Army has raised what is known as Bhairav Battalion. Now, Bhairav Battalion are basically light commando units which are attached to each and every corps, just like the 33 Corps, Tri-Shakti Corps, which we have discussed. Now, the intention of setting up of Bhairav Battalion is to fill the gap that exists in the military between special forces, that is Para-SF, and the regular infantry. So, there is a gap that exists between the two in terms of capabilities. So, as to fill this gap, the army has created what is known as Bhairav Battalion. Now, the purpose of Bhairav Battalion is that specialized light commando units will be attached to each and every division of Indian Army, which can be taken care of any offensive mission that the Indian Army wants to perform. Currently, when Indian Army deals with any security challenges, divisions of special forces are attached to regular infantry, and it sometimes can take some amount of time. So as to deal with this time lag or to deal with this operational readiness, Army has created Bhairav Battalion, right? So this was the intention of Bhairav Battalion. Now Bhairav Battalion was going to act in close cooperations with Ashni platoons. What are Ashni platoons? Ashni platoons are special platoons which are able to conduct strike and drone warfare capabilities. So this makes Bhairav Battalion in combination with Ashli platoon a very lethal armed force, right? So this is what the Indian Army has taken care of. Now let us talk about the Indian Air Force. Now Indian Air Force, its prime asset nowadays is the French origin Rafale aircraft. And the two air bases that were set up when Rafale came to India for the first time, these were deployed in Ambala Air Base in Haryana and Hashimara Air Base, which is located in West Bengal, to take care of Pakistan on western side of the border and to take care of China in the eastern side of the border. Now this Rafale squadrons, which is posted in Hashimara Air Bases, these are supported by MiG variants, particularly the MiG-29 aircraft, which is a very lethal aircraft of the Indian Air Forces. Now what the MiG-29 variants are especially capable of, they play the role of interceptors. They can take altitude very quickly. So what MiG-29 in combination with Rafale can do, and they also have the ability to fire BrahMos missile, they provide a ready offensive and defensive capabilities. So whether you're defending your territories from enemy or you're taking offensive positions against your enemy, all these assets will play a very important role. Similarly, to protect the area, India has created a layered air defense system. India has deployed S-400 missile systems. India is depending on Barak 8 medium-range surface-to-air missiles, which are Israeli origin, and India has also deployed indigenous Akash missiles in the region, which provides this area with 360-degree aerial coverage and a complete missile and air defense system, right? So this is how architecture has been laid down with special emphasis on air defense. Now let us talk about how Indian Army or Indian Armed Forces wants to conduct surveillance and rapid response. Now new garrison, as I told you, has been set up in 3 regions, which provides the Indian Armed Force units with ability to mobilize its armed force quickly and respond effectively in case of any emergency situation. Now these armed force units have also been integrated with unmanned aerial vehicle and satellite monitoring system, which allows or which gives these unit real-time intelligence so that they get information in real time and they can act on it as quickly as possible by setting up of the Bhairav platoons, right? Now, that does not mean that this kind of a system does not face any challenge. There is indeed a challenge. The first challenge that India is going to face geopolitically is the change in Dhaka's or Bangladesh's strategic alignment. Now, earlier, when Sheikh Hasina's government was in power in Bangladesh, they were very conscious of India's security interests. So, any threat that India might face earlier was dealt effectively with then Bangladesh government. Now, what has changed in real times that there has been a coup or unsaid coup in Bangladesh, which led to change in power from Sheikh Hasina to the interim government, which is now headed by Muhammad Yunus. Now, with this interim government in power, Bangladesh political alignment has changed. Earlier, it was shying away from Pakistan. Now, it has become quite close to Pakistan, especially the avenues of Pakistan and Bangladesh military cooperations have arisen. Also, there is growing China and Bangladesh defense cooperation in addition to economic cooperation that was already going on when China made investments under its Belt and Road Initiative. Similarly, China is trying to encircle India, which we have known for long now, and this is called a strings of pearls theory. And from that logic, you can see increased Chinese commercial and military deployment in the Indian Ocean region, be it ports in Myanmar, be it ports in Bangladesh, or be it ports in Sri Lanka. So this has emerged as a new challenge that India would face. Primarily is the Bangladesh's geostrategic realignment, which we have seen in recent times. Similarly, there are many hybrid threats that have come to India, one of which is cyber espionage, infrastructure sabotage, and even border infiltration, which might happen in the regions of Northeast from countries like Bangladesh, from countries like Myanmar. This has emerged as a challenge. Now, what is India's strategic response to this challenge? India has shifted its response. Earlier, India was trying to defend itself from the challenges known as the strategy of deterrence. Now, India has changed that strategy. I told you, India earlier perceived Siliguri Corridor as a weakness, but now it sees Siliguri Corridor's weakness as an opportunity to double down on its strength. And this was done with an intention to dominate its allies or dominate its rivals in the region. And this has been done through preemptive preparedness with infrastructure parity. As we all know, China is doubling down on the infrastructure creation in Chumbi Valley, so India has responded in kind. India has set up border roads, India has set up forward airfields, connectivity and tunnel project, which would allow Indian armed forces to redeploy quickly and effectively. And there has been also focus on integration between our air force as well as our army, which is responsible for land integration. So all this preemptive measures have already taken by the government. Similarly, government is also trying to balance this situation diplomatically so that the situation does not become worse. Now, what has India done? It has maintained its engagement with Dhaka even after change in power there, and it has tried to bring developmental outreach to Northeast so as to create more opportunities for economic growth and employment. Similarly, India is trying to counter Chinese influence via economic diplomacy. As you can see, recent instances where Indian foreign minister and Chinese foreign minister, India's prime minister and Chinese president, they have met and they try to cool down the tensions that existed between 2017 from the Doklam issue till 2020 till the Galwan conflict, right? So those have been, or India is taking recourse of all the measures, be it diplomatic measures, be it military measures, right? So this is what India's strategic response to this problem has been. Now, before we move to practice question, I want to inform you something. We are going to start with our resolution batches soon. That is the November batches. These are going to start from 18th of November. If you want to take admissions, now is the very best time for you to take it. And if you use the code ATS Live, you will get maximum discounts. That is the discounts of up to 7,000 rupees, be it on 2027 course, be it on 2028 course, all of which you'll get if you use this code. Now let us come back to the practice question. Consider the following states. How many of the above mentioned states share its land borders with Bangladesh? Now, one of the biggest problem that each and every one of India face is that they have no idea where the borders of northeastern states lie. So when these kind of questions appear in the exam, you would be perturbed. So now, if you understand India's map, particularly the map of India's northeast, you will realize that the states that are Meghalaya, West Bengal, Assam in these two places, and Tripura as well as Mizoram, these are the countries which share these are the Indian states which share their boundaries with Bangladesh, whereas out of the options, Manipur does not share its boundary with Bangladesh, rather it does so with Myanmar. So the correct answer to this question is no Manipur, rest 5 are the right answer. So only 5, option C is your right answer. Now, let me move to the last question of the day. This question I want you to solve. With reference to Bhairav Battalion, consider the following statement. Do let me know the correct answer of this question in the comment section. The ones who answer it correctly will get a thumbs up from my side. So this is all for today's video. Please have a very good night. We'll see each other again tomorrow at 9 p.m. And one more thing, if you want to download the video, the notes, they will be available on this particular Telegram channel, ATS Live. Okay, so I'll take your permission. Please have a very good night.